Nobody. I looked up the definition of victim, and I think you gave it. You gave it so well. It was like it's someone that's been hurt, someone that's been injured, someone that has been taken advantage of, someone that's been duped. And I remember when I went to the FBI after you heard my story yesterday, I went to the FBI thinking that they were going to help me. They were going to find the guy. They were going to get my money back. And I walked in, and they were like, "Deb, you were a victim." And you know what? That negativity of that word just hit me in the heart. I said, I do not want to be a victim. I am not going to be a victim. I was taken advantage of, yes. But what has happened didn't happen to me, although I thought that for a moment. It happened for me. And it only happened for me because I knew that there was something inside of me that needed to find the positive in it. I guess I've always been that way. My friends called me Pollyanna. I don't know if you've heard that word before. It's where you try to find the positive out of everything that's been negative in your life. And we need to do that because it's the only way to survive, to be that survivor, to be that thriver. And there have been times in my life, not just the scam, but when my husband passed away, there are a lot of us that have lost our husbands. You know, you could be 20, you could be 50, you could be 60. I think she just called us senior citizens, and I'm just 60.
I think so.
But when my husband passed away, I'm kidding, honey, I'm just kidding. When my husband passed away, it happened so suddenly, I didn't have an opportunity to really understand what went on. I didn't grieve about it. I wasn't a victim. I didn't have time to be a victim. And that's a good thing, but it wasn't about me. It was about Lou. And he's the one that died, and I got angry that he died. So I was a victim for a moment, but I didn't have time to really think about that because I had family to raise. I had to move on and move forward and find the resources around me to help me to move on, to learn how to run his business, to learn how to keep the family going, to learn that, you know, I could be an assistant to my old widow friends. I had men friends who were in their 80s that had lost their wives. And I wasn't going to be a victim because they wouldn't allow me to be a victim. They would ask me to come out to dinner with them because they were lonely. They needed someone to sit and chat because their wife wasn't around anymore. They were safe from me because my husband wasn't around anymore. And they were my friends. And that's what it is. It's not about being a victim and staying in that mentality. I worked with a woman last year. Well, it's almost 2 years ago. And from age 2, she had problems in her life. She had maybe been molested. She'd been neglected by her mother. She had everything you can imagine was about her. And she was now in her mid-60s. She'd been a victim her whole life. She sucked the life out of me. Her negativity was just unbelievable for me. And I'd had my own things going on. You know, she was also a victim of scam. And all I heard about was her problem and how she was taken advantage of and how she couldn't move on and it wasn't fair because her mother had taken stuff and her father had beaten her. And I mean, everything was about her. And that negative feeling, like we said here, you're not owed anything in life. I just wanted to shake her and say, find the positive in living. You woke up this morning and you're breathing. Be grateful for that. She couldn't even be grateful for that. And I had to learn over time that being around someone like that drug me down. I was in the pit with her. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the way it made me feel because I was a survivor. I was one that was going to rise from that situation I was in. And I couldn't let her pull me down. Because we all know that, you know, people that are miserable want you to be miserable with them. They want you to be down there with them. And I couldn't do that anymore. I had to find the strength within me to stand up, to speak up, to find something positive about the horrible things that had happened to me. Because when I started serving others, I realized that my problems really weren't that hard. They weren't that bad. There were other people out there that were going through a lot more than I was. And my being a victim at that point was nothing compared to people that had ill health or that had been beaten. Or even I was on a show a couple weeks ago in New York City, and the young woman beside me was in her 20s. Now, we had given our stories about being scammed, and mine was about money. Hers was about a young man who had enticed her to send naked pictures to him. 300 women he had gotten to do this. And I'm sitting there thinking, gosh, my $1 million was nothing. I would not want my naked body out on the internet. And these young girls just did it, but she did not want to be a victim either. The only problem with her is that her tattoos arms were very distinguishable, and she couldn't hide from that anymore, so she had to come out. I could have chosen to hide. My book was called The Woman Behind the Smile, and I talked about that. We all put up that smile. We all hide from something that's happened in our lives. And we can become victims, and we can hide forever, or we can make people miserable because we're going to tell them that we're victims. But everybody has been a victim at some point in their life. And it's not going to get any better if that's all we dwell about, if it's all we think about. We have to rise. We have to make something good about that. And the reason I started speaking about what happened to me, I could have hidden. My boys were so embarrassed by what I had done. And I'm like, you guys, I'm not coming to live with you. I don't need your money. I'm okay. It happened to me, but what was the reason that it happened for me? And a lady called up one time and she said, Deb, the reason you were scammed the way you were, the reason you were victimized like that is because your higher power, my God, believed and knew that I could speak up about it. That I could take what happened and help other people that would not have the ability to speak up, would not feel like they could survive it. And I told my boys this, I said, let me go out and talk about it because it makes me empowered. It makes me strong from the inside out. There's no victim in me. Yeah, it happened, but it has made me a totally different person from the inside out. And I thought it was pretty good before. But now my goal is to help someone that's sitting beside me and sitting in front of me that maybe has gone through that same situation, that feels lost, that feels alone, that doesn't know how they can move on. But when they hear my story, when they hear your stories, they know someone else has been through it. And now they have a hand to hold on to. They can hug somebody. And they know that they've got support because that person can feel what they've been through. A therapist cannot help me in many ways because they have never been through my situation. They can't feel what I can feel. But the other victims, the women I work with, I work with an organization called SCARS, which is interesting, that's the name, but it's the Society for Citizens Against Relationship Scams. The women I work with that have recently been taken advantage of are so closed. Their minds, their hearts, their whole body is closed. You can see it in them. They're not doing one of these. They're doing one of these. They are just holding all that inside of them. That gives the power to the person that has taken advantage of them. Until you release that and you acknowledge what happened, you own your story, and you realize that millions of people have been through it, but now it's time for you to get beyond it. When they hear my story and I talk to them and hold their hand, now they feel good. Now they know they're not alone. Women of domestic abuse, same thing. When you find someone that's been through it, you might think, oh, mine's not as bad as theirs. Thank goodness. But now I have a friend. Now I have someone that I can help move forward. And that's what we're all here to do, is help one another. And I'm so grateful to be here because we are women without borders. Our hearts, I can feel your hearts. And that just makes me feel so great. I got goosebumps right now. Thank you so much for allowing me to share with you, because we've all had things happen to us in life, but we are not victims. We are thrivers, we are survivors. We're going to stand up, we're going to speak up, we're going to woman up, and we're going to be there for our kids, our family members, and for each other. And thank you for that. I really appreciate y'all.
Resonated with what you said. It was profound and beautiful, and thank you so much for that. There's something which I just feel we also need to keep in mind is that moving from a victim position to a survivor and a thriver is a process, is a journey, and I think at some point we do get stuck in the victim mode, in the victim consciousness, and it's equally important to honor and respect that because that's such a huge part of the journey. And sometimes I feel we tend to demonize that and polarize that, throw the victim out. Yeah, and also this whole thing that I completely agree with you when you said that, you see, every adversity has within it, embedded within it, the seeds of probably transformation. But it's just not as simple as a flick on switch, Yeah, it's sometimes it's so simplistic to assume that something bad happens, okay, immediately, it's really not that way. And I think even those of us who are thrivers today have moments when it's one step forward and 1,000 steps backwards. Because I think getting stuck in the victim consciousness is almost like a default response and requires a lot of self-awareness. It's painful. It's almost like a butterfly emerging from the cocoon. But I think that's part of the journey. I'd love to have your thoughts on that.
No, I totally agree, and it's when you're talking to microphones together. And I find, and sometimes, we're very strong personalities, and I'm very conscious of being careful not to, like my daughter was recently divorced, and sometimes she'll call up and she'll say, Mom, and then there's a long pause, and I know the crying's going to come. And in a few minutes, I just want to say, Jenny, pull up your bootstraps and woman up. And she'll say, just let me get it out. I can't express this to my ex, but I can't express it to you because I know you'll just listen to me. Don't fix it. Just listen. And I get that. But my girlfriend, this friend that had been a victim for 60 years, at some point I had to say, I'm sorry this has all happened to you. I can't help you. Because she didn't want to be helped. She wanted to stay in that victim mode. And I'm like, I can't help you. And like we have a great saying about making lemons into lemonade. There are some days I'm making a lot of lemonade. But and then passing it around. And some days I just leave the lemon on the tree and say, there are certain people that are ready for us to help them. And when they're ready, we'll be there for them. But if they're not ready, then let them, I call it stalking. Just stay on the fringe and watch. Try to learn from what everybody else has done, and when you're ready, then you'll be able to go out there and heal yourself. Because you have to heal yourself. No one else is going to heal you. So, no, I'm really grateful you were here because I was watching you. I could feel you and feel your spirit, and that's great. And thank you. I honor you for that. Thank you for being here.